Just off the mainland of Nova Scotia, Canada, is a little island. Now this island has been filled with mystery for hundreds and hundreds of years, and has been explored by many people. This island is none other than Oak Island. In 1795, a man by the name of Daniel McGinnis was around walking on the island when he found a small depression in the ground. And just to the right of it was a tree, and one of the branches hanging over it was worn down and had a tackle box attached to it. Now back then the tackle box was a little bit different. They weren't necessarily used for fishing, but there was one kind where they would actually use it for weight as a pulley system, so they could lower stuff down. Now he thought he would gather some of his friends and dig a hole, see if he could find anything. So the next day when he gathered a bunch of his friends and started digging, he actually found a bunch of flagstone 2 feet down. Now flagstone is this thin stone that people use for like sidewalks and roads at the time. And I actually forgot, here is a picture of the island. Right here is Oak Island, just off of Nova Scotia, Canada. And here is a picture of Daniel McGinnis in his older years. Now he was a bit younger, he was about 19, 20-ish. I couldn't find a picture of him when he was that young though. But here is a picture of him pointing to Nova Scotia. So anyways, at 2 feet down, they found some flagstone. So they got that out of the way and kept digging. At about 10 feet, they found layers of logs of wood. Thinking that they were close to the treasure, they kept digging. But at 20 feet, they found even more logs. At 25 feet, they decided to stop. They figured, we'll see what happens next, wait a little bit, because we just don't have the willpower to continue anymore. But if someone is digging 25 feet down, they must be looking for something, or they must be hiding something. The next exploration wasn't until 1802, 7 years later. Simeon Linz decided to bring a bunch of his friends and go explore the island even more. The first task that he said he would do was clean out the pit of all the old stuff because they had covered it up and left a mess. So they kept digging, and about 80 to 90 feet, when they reached there, they began finding putty and rocks and stones and all these little things that had to be from man. Like they found pickaxe markings on the side of the walls and everything. And then when they kept drilling, they actually hit more wood at about 100 feet. Figuring, okay, this has to be it. Let's break for the night now. So they go to sleep and come back the next morning to find that the pit is filled with about 60 feet of water. Completely disheartened, they had no idea what to do, so they started draining. They had already invested so much into this project. So as they're taking out the water, they noticed that it's just filling right back up. They just thought, well, we're done. We can't do anything else. The next exploration was not until 1849. A corporation was founded just to start digging on this island. People are getting very interested about this island now. And so the first thing they wanted to figure out was why were there so many flood problems? What was going on? Well, they figured out that it was salt water. And they found out that just about 500 feet away, there was a man-made cove. And in this cove, there was a hole that was dug to let in seawater during the tides. So whenever the tide would be up, the pit would fill if there was a hole dug. So it was all the hole to the pit. Also, like to make sure that it didn't get clogged by sand, they put a bunch of coconut fiber, dead seaweed, and all these other kinds of nets so that it wouldn't get clogged up. And when they drilled a little bit farther, they finally were able to break through that wooden plank. And since there was still water, they couldn't really get down there too easily. So what they did find, though, was golden chains. So that was really interesting. The next exploration wasn't until 1861, and that was when the first life was claimed. When trying to get down this 100-foot hole, someone actually fell, and they fell to their death. And then what happened was they tried to drain out the water from the pipes, from the pit, not learning from previous people that they had to clog up the hole first, and it just kept filling up. So by then they were drained completely of resources and money, and so they left as well. However, from the times of 1866 to 1936, people had a bit more ideas. One was they tried to blow up the hole with dynamite, trying to use brute force. And instead, all they did was loosen everything up in the pit, and a lot of things crashed. They heard a loud crashing noise, and they thought, well, if there was treasure, it's even deeper down now. Another idea was to get the water out is people brought cranes around 1936. They bought cranes with excavation buckets to try and lift water out, since they couldn't get the hole completely filled. And that didn't work, because whenever the tide would come back up, the pit would fill again. Now, in 1959, there was a daredevil by the name of Robert Rastall that thought he would take a crack at it. So he began digging, and they actually were able to block up the hole. I can't remember quite how they did it, but they were able to block up the hole. And so he went, when he was going to block it, he actually fell in this cove. And when his son went down there to look for him, because he had been gone for hours upon hours in this cove, he actually fell down as well and died. The entire crew ended up going down into this cove and died because of what a firefighter thought of was carbon monoxide poisoning. Because there was an engine just running above them near that cove. Now, the next biggest thing to happen was in 1970, the Trident Corporation tried to get the project rolling again with Oak Island. Currently, they're fighting legal battles to try and get possession of the land so they can actually dig in other places than just this one pit. And that's where they are right now, just trying to fight for this land. Something that I always found interesting about Oak Island is that they might never find something. It'll always be a mystery, and that's why I find it interesting.